My husband told me life was simpler when women knew their place. The next morning, I decided to show him exactly what that world looks like, one rule at a time. By the end of the week, our house didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like a warning. And when he finally begged me to stop, I just smiled and said, I thought you wanted traditional. I'm shaking as I type this because, even now, months later, I can still hear the sound of their laughter. It wasn't just laughter, it was mockery, sharp and echoing off the kitchen walls like broken glass. It started on a random Tuesday morning. I was reading an article about coral bleaching, how entire ecosystems were dying because of climate change, when my husband, Mark, 42, slammed his coffee mug down so hard that it cracked the ceramic coaster in half. Would you stop with this woke garbage already? He barked. Our three sons, Ethan, 17, Caleb, 15, and Ryan, 13, were halfway through their cereal, and I watched, frozen, as they all looked at him, then at me, and burst out laughing. Like it was a comedy sketch, like their father had given them permission to laugh at me. Yeah, Mom, Ethan said between spoonfuls. You sound like a Twitter activist, Caleb smirked. Tyler's mom isn't like this. She doesn't try to act smarter than everyone. Mark leaned back in his chair, satisfied. See? Even they get it. Life was simpler when women knew their place, when men didn't have to apologize for being men. And there it was. The sentence that snapped something inside me. I didn't yell, I didn't cry, I just went still. I felt this eerie, quiet calm move through me, like the moment before a storm hits and the air goes electric. You're right, I said softly. Life was simpler then. They laughed harder, assuming I had given up. Ethan high-fived Mark. Caleb muttered, based, under his breath. I finished my coffee in silence, and when I stood up, something inside me felt mechanical, detached. A switch flipped. Because fine, if they wanted traditional, I'd give them traditional. Not the Instagram version they romanticize, but the real thing. Raw, ugly, suffocating tradition. The kind where women shut up, where men suffered quietly, where nobody questioned authority, because ignorance was easier. The next morning, I got up before all of them. The house was silent. I stood in the kitchen, staring at the pale sunrise leaking through the blinds, and started planning. Every rule, every restriction, every cruel absurdity of the world they thought they missed, I'd recreate it for them, down to the last detail. By the time the first one wandered into the kitchen yawning, I'd already emptied every pill bottle in the bathroom into the trash. If they wanted a world where men were strong and women silent, then let them live in it. When Mark came down the stairs the next morning, rubbing his neck and grumbling about his back pain, I was already standing by the counter with a smile that must have looked too calm to be normal.
Hey guys, real quick before we keep going, don't forget to sub and drop a like if you're enjoying the story. Thank you very much. Enjoy watching.
Morning, I said sweetly. I made breakfast. The boys stumbled in, one by one, hair sticking up, still half asleep. The table was set. A pot of plain, boiled beans, dry toast, and black coffee. No salt, no butter, no sugar. Ethan frowned. Where's the bacon? I shrugged. Traditional families eat simple. Spices are a modern invention. Decadent. Foreign. You boys wouldn't want to be influenced by anything multicultural, would you? Caleb smirked, thinking I was joking, but his smile faltered when I didn't laugh. Mark poured himself coffee, took a sip, and grimaced. This is awful. Did you forget the creamer? Oh, that stuff's for soft men, I said lightly. Real men drink it black. He looked confused, then noticed the small pile of pill bottles missing from the counter. Where are my meds? Gone, I said, turning to the sink. You don't need them. Real men tough it out, remember? He blinked, half laughing. Wait, what? The blood pressure pills. The back pain medication. The anxiety ones. All liberal propaganda. I found you a new doctor. Male, of course. He's 3 hours away and doesn't take insurance, but I figured that's more traditional. Mark's face drained of color. You didn't. Oh, I absolutely did, Ethan snorted. Mom, that's messed up. Is it? I asked, tilting my head. I just want to honor the world your father misses. You boys will appreciate it too. Caleb frowned. What's that supposed to mean? It means, I said, pulling out a neat stack of papers. I spoke to your school. You're being removed from classes taught by women. Can't have you learning from them. It's unnatural. You'll stick to gym and shop. A man's education. Ryan's fork froze halfway to his mouth. But Mrs. Latham teaches my science class. I like her. I smiled too wide. I'm sure you do. That's the corruption starting early. Mark slammed his palm on the table. Enough. This isn't funny. Oh, I'm not joking, I said quietly. You wanted simple times, back when women stayed home, men ruled, and everyone knew their place. I leaned in, my voice almost a whisper. I'm giving you exactly that. The silence that followed was thick, heavy. I watched their expressions shift, confusion, disbelief, then the first flicker of fear. And God help me, it felt good. By the second day, the house already felt different, quieter, colder. It was the kind of silence that came from confusion turning into dread. Mark sat on the couch in his undershirt, staring blankly at the muted TV. He hadn't taken his meds in 48 hours, and I could see it in his pale face, the sweat at his temples. He looked smaller somehow, fragile. Feeling manly yet? I asked lightly from the doorway. He didn't answer, just rubbed his chest and muttered something about needing to call his doctor. I canceled the appointment, I said before he could reach for his phone. Your doctor's a woman. You said yourself we shouldn't trust them. He froze, his hand hovering over the coffee table. That's not what I. Sure it is, I interrupted. But don't worry. I rescheduled you with Dr. Harlow. He's a man, old school, doesn't use computers. You'll love him. From upstairs came a slam, Ethan's door, then footsteps pounding down the stairs. He was fuming, waving his phone. Mom, what the hell? They said my schedule's been changed. I can't take chemistry or history anymore. What is this? I looked up from folding laundry. Your chemistry teacher's a woman. And the history one's a woman too. I'm protecting you from corruption. Caleb appeared behind him, still in his football hoodie. The counselor said I'm only enrolled in gym now. I need English to graduate. I smiled. The English teacher's a woman. You can read the Bible instead. It'll build character. Ryan, my youngest, peeked around the banister. Mom, can I at least go to art club? It's run by Mr. Ortiz. I hesitated for a beat, almost ready to cave until Mark scoffed. Oh, now you're letting them pick favorites. And just like that, I hardened again. Actually, I said evenly, art is a feminine subject. You'll skip it. Ryan's face fell and Ethan exploded. You've lost it. He threw his backpack across the room, the sound echoing like a gunshot. Dad, do something! Mark stood up too fast, swayed, and caught himself on the wall. His skin had gone gray. Honey, he said, voice shaking, this joke's gone far enough. I stared at him. You think equality's a joke, so now so is this. When the boys stormed upstairs, slamming doors one after another, Mark finally broke. You're punishing them for my words. I met his eyes. I'm teaching them what your words actually mean. He didn't answer. He just sat back down and stared at the blank TV, breathing heavy and shallow, while I finished folding his laundry, his crisp white shirts that suddenly looked like armor from another century. By day 3, the cracks were starting to show. Mark's color was bad, ashen, with that thin sheen of sweat he always got when his blood pressure spiked. I noticed the tremor in his hand as he tried to butter a piece of toast, though there wasn't much to butter. The fridge was half empty, stripped of anything modern. I'd cleaned it out the night before. No processed foods, no condiments, nothing foreign. Just beans, bread, and a few sad vegetables. Ethan didn't even try to hide his disgust. This is insane. Dad, you're really gonna let her do this? Mark opened his mouth, but then pressed in a hand to his chest, grimacing. I'll handle it later. Later? Caleb snapped. You're letting her ruin everything now. I turned slowly from the stove. Ruin? Oh no, sweetheart. I'm restoring. Don't you want to live the way your father says real men should? No doctors, no women in charge, no government handouts. Ryan, sweet and quiet Ryan, whispered. Can I at least have butter? I smiled at him, soft but firm. Butter's fine, as long as you churn it yourself. The phone rang, breaking the tension. I wiped my hands and answered. It was the school principal, confused about the schedule changes I'd demanded. I explained my reasoning politely, calmly. By the time I hung up, the house was dead silent again. Mark tried to stand, then grabbed the counter, wheezing. You can't do this. You can't just... I can, I said, turning to face him. You wanted a world where women had no voice. That means I don't need your permission. He slammed his palm down, so hard that the mug beside him toppled, shattering on the floor. The boys flinched. Stop twisting my words, he shouted. This isn't funny anymore. Neither was you telling our sons I was embarrassing for having opinions, I said, my voice trembling now, the calm cracking. Neither was you laughing at me for caring about the planet or equality or science. For a second, he just stared at me, like maybe, finally, he saw the anger underneath the quiet. But then, because Mark never knew when to quit, he barked a laugh. You've lost your damn mind, I smiled, and it may be. But at least, now you know what living without a woman's mind feels like. That night, while he paced the hallway, clutching his chest and refusing to admit he needed help, I sat in our bed, scrolling through local politics forums, reading about an upcoming school board election. One candidate was pushing to ban woke curricula. Another was a woman advocating for comprehensive education. For the first time in days, I felt a spark of something that wasn't anger, purpose. Maybe I could do more than just make my point. Maybe I could make a change. By the 5th morning, everything had started to rot. Food, tempers, even the air in the house. The boys barely spoke to me, though I caught them whispering to each other in their rooms. Mark moved like a ghost, sluggish and pale, the veins in his temples twitching when he thought I wasn't looking. He'd stopped going to work 2 days earlier. I'd called his boss myself, told her that Mark didn't need any special accommodations for his back pain, that real men work through suffering. Apparently, the message got around the office fast. One of his coworkers even texted him a meme calling him Mr. Traditional. I saw it flash across his phone screen before he deleted it. That afternoon, Caleb came limping through the front door, holding his ankle. Coach says it might be sprained, he muttered, trying not to cry. I folded my arms. We'll see the doctor tomorrow. Can't we go now? It hurts. The only male doctor who doesn't take insurance is 3 hours away, I reminded him. Traditional men walk it off. Ethan slammed his fist on the wall. Jesus, Mom, he's hurt. You made your point. Not yet, I said softly. Ryan sat on the couch, wide-eyed, watching his brothers argue. He didn't speak, but I could see the fear there, the realization that I wasn't bluffing anymore. Mark finally staggered out of the bedroom, his shirt half buttoned, his skin slick with sweat. You got to stop this, he said, his voice breaking. You're hurting them. I turned on him, shaking now, but not from fear. Am I? Or am I showing them what your words really mean? You wanted a world without wokeness, without women with opinions, without help from medicine or education or progress. You wanted simpler times. This is what that looks like. He grabbed the back of a chair to steady himself. You're going to kill us, trying to prove a point. I took a step closer, lowering my voice until it was almost a whisper. Then maybe next time you'll think twice before teaching our sons that ignorance is strength. That night, nobody ate dinner. Caleb's ankle swelled to twice its size. Mark lay in bed, gasping softly, clutching his chest, but refusing to admit he needed his medication. Ethan came into the kitchen after midnight and found me sitting there in the dark, with my laptop open, staring at the candidate registration form, for the school board election. What are you doing? He asked, voice small. I looked up at him, eyes burning. Something useful. He swallowed hard. You're serious, aren't you? Completely. I hit submit. The next morning, when they all sat down at the table, hungry, tired, hollow-eyed, I set the laptop in front of them and said, if you want this to stop, you'll help me win. For the first few seconds after I said it, no one moved. Even the air seemed to hold its breath. Then Ethan pushed the laptop back toward me, his voice breaking between anger and disbelief. You want us to help you run for school board? Yes, I said evenly. You mocked what I care about: education, science, equality. Now you'll help me protect them. Mark's voice came out hoarse, thin. You can't be serious. I'm dead serious. I leaned forward, meeting his tired eyes. You wanted me quiet. You wanted traditional. Well, now I'm giving you a choice. Either you support me or you live like this forever. No doctors, no spices, no independence. Just beans and silence. Caleb muttered, she's lost it, but he didn't look convinced. His ankle was still swollen, and the pain was making him tremble. Ryan glanced from me to his dad, whispering, please, Dad, just say yes. Mark sat back slowly, staring at me like he didn't recognize the woman across from him. His jaw twitched, his hands unsteady from withdrawal. You're trying to prove some moral point, but you're punishing everyone to get there. You punished me first, I said, voice cracking despite myself. Every time you laughed, every time you told the boys to laugh too, every time you turned me into a joke for caring about something real, you made me small in my own house. Now you finally feel it, and you hate it. Something inside him seemed to give way then. His head dropped into his hands, and for the first time in weeks, I saw fear instead of pride in his eyes. Fine, he said quietly. I'll help you. Just stop this. I looked at Ethan, then Caleb, then Ryan. All of you. Ethan hesitated, his throat tight. We'll help too. Just, please, Mom. Please make it stop. The next morning, I started undoing the chaos. Pulled Mark's medications from where I'd hidden them in the garage, reinstated our insurance, called the school to fix the boys' schedules. The house began to smell normal again. Bacon, spices, coffee with sugar. But the silence stayed. Nobody dared joke. Nobody dared call me embarrassing. When Mark finally took his blood pressure pill, he looked at me like a drowning man seeing land for the first time. You made your point, he said. I smiled faintly. Not yet. I'm going to make it public. He frowned. What does that mean? It means, I said, closing my laptop with a soft click, you're all going to help me show this town what happens when ignorance runs the household. And for the first time, I saw something new in his eyes. Not defiance, not mockery. Respect. Or maybe fear dressed up as respect. Either way, it was enough. The shift in the house after that was eerie. No one talked back anymore. The boys walked on eggshells, their voices small, their laughter gone. Mark took his pills each morning with silent obedience, avoiding my eyes as though looking at me might invite another storm. But the quiet wasn't peace. It was something heavier, coiled, waiting. I threw myself into the campaign. Every evening, after the boys finished homework, I sat at the kitchen table crafting flyers, reading about the district's policies, researching my opponent. A woman named Suzanne Watkins, a self-proclaimed defender of traditional family values. Her website was full of smiling family photos and coded rhetoric about protecting children from woke ideology. I knew exactly what that meant. One night, as I was typing a speech draft, Mark walked in, hair still wet from the shower. He hovered in the doorway, like he wasn't sure if he was allowed to speak. You really think you can win? I don't know, I said. But I'm going to try. He hesitated, then sat down, across from me. What do you need me to do? It wasn't defiance this time. It was surrender. I handed him a list: donations, volunteer contacts, logistics. You'll help me organize. The boys can canvass when we're ready. Ethan, who had been pretending not to listen from the stairs, muttered, Do we have to? Yes, I said. You owe me that much. The following weekend, we all went to the community center for the campaign launch meeting. The boys trailed behind me like shadows while I stood in front of 24 people, talking about science, education, and equality. My voice trembled at first, but the words began to find their rhythm. How fear masquerades as morality, how ignorance hides behind nostalgia. People nodded, a few even clapped. Afterward, a woman with a clipboard introduced herself as Nicole, the campaign coordinator for another progressive candidate. "You've got guts," she said, smiling. "You're what this district needs." Her words hit me harder than I expected. Guts. Not crazy, not embarrassing, just brave. When we got home, Ethan lingered in the kitchen as I poured tea. "Mom," he said quietly, "Tyler's mom, the one we kept comparing you to, she's supporting that Watkins woman. And she said some messed up stuff online about banning books. I think she's actually kind of scary." I looked up at him, startled. "What changed your mind?" He shrugged, staring at his shoes. "I guess living without choices made me see what that world would really be like." Later that night, I found Mark outside on the porch, staring into the dark yard. He didn't look angry anymore, just tired. "I never realized how much damage one sentence could do," he said quietly. I stood beside him. "It's not the sentence," I said. "It's the comfort behind it. The idea that you can dismiss someone's mind and still feel righteous." He nodded slowly, eyes glistening. "Then let's make sure our sons never learn that again." And for the first time, I believed him. Election night felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, with the whole town watching to see if I'd fall or fly. The community center was packed: parents, teachers, volunteers, neighbors. Nicole was at the front, refreshing the results page every 30 seconds, her laptop casting a blue glow across her face. Mark stood behind me, hand on my shoulder, his fingers trembling, just slightly. The boys hovered nearby. Ethan had been canvassing for weeks, knocking on doors with his younger brothers, telling people about comprehensive education like he was reciting a lesson he'd finally come to understand. Caleb's limp had mostly healed, but he still rubbed his ankle absent-mindedly when he got nervous. Ryan held a small handmade sign that said, "Knowledge isn't dangerous." At 7:42 p.m., the first results came in, Suzanne ahead by 250 votes. The room groaned. Nicole reminded everyone it was early, that her strongest precincts reported first. I nodded, but my stomach was tight, cold. By 9 cows, we were closing the gap. I watched the numbers flicker on the screen. Down to 150, then 80, then 47. The crowd murmured each change like a prayer. When the final precinct posted, I was ahead by 112 votes. Nicole's voice cracked when she whispered, "You did it." Then the room erupted. People shouted, hugged, cried. Mark pulled me into his arms, and for the first time in years, he didn't look like he was trying to dominate the space. We were equals, both shaking with something close to awe. The boys swarmed me, laughing and crying at the same time. Ethan said, "You actually did it, Mom." Caleb whispered, "We helped." Ryan just held my hand and said, "I'm proud of you." When we got home, the house felt lighter. The same walls, the same furniture, but somehow the air had changed. I walked into the kitchen, the place where it all started, and saw my reflection in the dark window. Tired, yes, but alive. Mark came in behind me, setting down his phone. "My boss saw the news," he said. "She called to congratulate you. Said anyone who could turn her whole family around like that deserves to run the country." I laughed, exhausted. "One step at a time." He hesitated, then said softly, "You saved us, you know. Not just from ignorance, but from me." I turned and met his eyes. "No," I said. "You saved yourself when you decided to listen." Outside, the first snow of winter had started to fall, coating everything in quiet white. The boys were already talking about new ideas for school projects, and Mark was scrolling through an article about renewable energy on his phone. I sat down at the same kitchen table where it had all begun, where I'd been mocked, dismissed, humiliated, and whispered almost to myself, "Turns out, being woke just means being awake." And for the first time, they all nodded.